Most businesses think they have a closing problem. They don't. Problem is everything that didn't happen before booking the call. You're a closer right now?
Yeah.
Okay, chat to me. What is your closer?
About 13%.
13?
Yeah. Original one was 15.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, what is that?
Not as easy as you think to sell.
I say speaking of okay, is it B2B sales, B2C? B2B.
B2B.
Okay, what's the ticket?
15k.
15k.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Put that into perspective. I imagine it's all cold traffic?
No.
No?
Yeah,
They're warm?
The school paradox.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I wonder why the closer is set up. So
yeah.
I'm saying that because when I was closing B2B at the time, right, it was all cold traffic aggressive. The company would send out cold emails, right, and off the back of that, these guys would come to the calendar and they'd have no clue about anything that we did. We did TikTok for those brands, right? They had no clue, and I closed anywhere from 30 to 35%. The average ticket of those was anywhere from 20 to 30k, so it was super high ticket. Companies come to me, right, and they have one goal, which is improve their acquisition system. So that could be anything within emails that they receive, the funnels that are involved, the sales team, the SOPs around that team, tracking anything of that nature. That's what people come to me for. So that's what I'll break down here. Main goal out of this is all of these here. So the system that I input into all of these different companies, I've consulted and managed a total of over about 30 to 40 right now, overall in the last year or so. Sales scripts, closing, the funnel infrastructure, which is very important. Most people don't understand it. The ops, the systemization around a personal brand, which is ultimately why I'm here today, and reputation and referrals, which is again one of the most important things. So you're actively taking sales calls. Anyone else actively taking sales calls? You are?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a confirmation page?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, what's on it?
A video going through kind of the pitch in essence.
Okay. Anything else?
Just telling, basically making sure they are 100% know what we're going to be delivering for them before they get to the call.
Sure. There's just one video though.
Yeah. And then case studies, testimonials underneath it.
Case studies, testimonials. Okay. Are they client interviews? What's the?
Yeah, video, and then it goes into after that all screenshots of messages and group chats and stuff.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So I would say out of all the different things that I do for all of these different companies, what they all miss incredibly wrong, and they all get wrong time and time again, is the confirmation page, right? You got to see it in perspective. Somebody books a call with you, their highest intent in their mind is the second that call is booked. That's when they have the most emotion towards it. Every hour, day out, further than that, they are forgetting about the offer, they're forgetting about you, they're forgetting about the value, etc., etc. So right there and then is the most important time, and this is what most people miss, is the confirmation page, is the first part I'll go through. Number one, a verb calendar invite. So it's fairly straightforward. We have confirmation page, we have one main video at the top, right? Within that video, like you mentioned, you're walking them through the next steps, information about your offer, make sure they're not distracted in any way, they're on a laptop, they're in a quiet place, whatever that looks like, right? Breakout videos. I imagine that was one of the points that you said you did not have these. No?
No.
No? Okay, cool. Do you know if your offer does?
We do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what breakout videos are they are frequently asked questions, right? Which is, let's say for example, a sales team takes 100 sales calls over a month, right? What we do is we copy the transcript of every single one of those sales calls, and we will get the most common objections, right? We'll input it into a clause field that my copywriter has built, and we'll create breakout videos off the back of that. We list them out from 1 to 5, right? And it will be the most common objections. The typical ones that I hear all the time is, why would I not just do this by myself? What is the worst case scenario? Those type of things are the best things that you can answer in your breakout videos. You mentioned a good point. You said you have a bit of client proof. I would always recommend in-person client interviews within the last two, and I just have 2 at the bottom. You don't need to have too many. So it's very simple. You have your main video, 5 breakout videos, and then 2 client interviews is the best way to position that. You guys have pre-call emails in place, do you? What do you do again?
I run a low ticket community and an education platform teaching matched betting.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's all low ticket here, so I don't really have many sales calls.
Okay. Interesting. All good. So pre-call emails. A lot of people have the perception that when you're sending out pre-call emails to your prospects, that you can only send out, I don't know, maybe 1 a day, maybe 2 a day. That is completely untrue. And a lot of people just send reminders, again, which is completely untrue, right? To do this right, again, I actually have a copywriter on my team who creates all of these emails for every single one of my clients. It is no use just sending reminders, because then people will just generalize your service as every other sales call they have booked previously, right? So within that, we have case study emails, value emails, offer clarity. That is it. That's all you need to do within your pre-call emails. And within that, specifically the case study one's very straightforward. Value emails is about your offer, what's your USP, what's important within that, and how can you show your prospect that you are willing to give them something before they get on that call with you. Any questions on anything I've spoke about thus far? Yeah.
I used to have that, and I've had prospects come to the call going, "That was far too many emails."
I've had the same as well, yeah.
What's your take on that? B2B?
Yeah. Did you track your open rate?
No.
No. Okay. So there is certain softwares out there that you can track the open rate, which is very important, right? So we can either use one called Kish or one called Active Campaign, Mailgun. There's a couple of different out there, but you can track the open rate of the emails. How we do it and how we start sending them out. So what we'll do is, right, let's say we take on a new offer, we're setting up pre-call emails, we're setting up the sequencing, right? We'll start at 2 a day, right? If we can see that the open rate is, let's say it's 40, 50%. Okay, cool. We'll add another one, so it's 3 a day now, right? If the open rate drops by, I don't know, 5, 10%, that will tell us that people are like looking at these emails being like, okay, too many of you sent it to me right now, I don't want to look at these anymore, so you need to reduce that again. So it's all about the open rate, tells you how many you can send out.
I do cold email, so something with the open rate that Google have just updated it. It's been for a few months now, where they will open the email. They'll have an agent that goes through and opens the email before it actually gets sent.
Okay.
So it's not as reliable anymore. Is the only thing that I have an issue with that on.
So can you elaborate on it further? You're doing cold email for your agency or what?
My agency, so I have an agency, so I'm taking sales calls for my own agency, is cold email outreach, outbound. So when it comes to open tracking, we don't track it because one, it affects deliverability for cold email specifically, warm sort of different.
Yeah.
But then also it's not accurate because Google, just in case there's some spam, they have agents that will go through and open the emails before actually the person opens it, just to report, is this spam, is it not? And then because of that, the open tracking triggers if it's like Gmail, for example.
Yep.
So that's my only hesitation with implementing that and trusting that.
With implementing the sequencing that I'm speaking about?
The open tracking.
Right.
And then being able to understand the metrics of if it's actually helping, or what metric would you track, I guess, to understand if it's helping or not. When I have people come to the call saying, I was far too many emails, and they're kind of a bit pissed off. And maybe it's the content that we've got in the emails. I try and follow some case studies offer specific personalised to them. But then what's the trouble out of it?
This is what I'll say is like too many acquisition systems at this point in time. So I've set up like emails for so many different people, right? And what I'll say is, sure, within business we're trying to find something that is like plug and play, it's scalable, we can do this across multiple people. The best acquisition systems on the planet, however, you have to trial and test for every single one. There is no specific thing that is applicable to every single thing. So your industry, your niche, only you are going to be able to find that out from looking at it, seeing the data, and understand what to do off the back of that. So like you say, if people are just telling you that you've seen so many emails, you just got to reduce it by 1 or 2 a day. You know? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I guess the metrics to track is just the qualitative data there. Is there anything else, or I guess show rate as well?
Yep, show rate for sure. What I will say alongside that is offer rate is another thing that people don't speak about, don't track, right? And when somebody books a call, if they get to that sales call and they don't get offered, they don't get pitched, a lot of the time it's because they're not educated on the actual service itself, right? And again, what you're trying to do here is prevent that. So we're sending emails explaining the offer so that if someone looks at the email and says, oh, what the hell, like, this is not for me, they don't get on that call anymore and your closer doesn't waste an hour of their time, right? So offer rate is important alongside that. And I would also say something that we do is, again, the transcripts of File Them Are Your Best Friend, right? So we'll copy all the transcripts, and if people are coming into the calls with different objections that we're not seeing, or let's say, for example, we're sending out a certain email and we're seeing that it's still coming up on the sales call, certain objections are still coming up, then we need to either elaborate on it further, do better copy, whatever that looks like. But it's just about getting feedback and implementation right away.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any question?
How many emails total then? If it's like 2 to 4 per day between booking and the actual call, is there like a set window that you recommend, so like people can't book a call for the first 48 hours up until a week's time, and in that time period we want to send 10 emails total?
It's a good question for sure. I'll get into the booking window fairly shortly. What I will say is it's very subjective, but what's important to know is your booking window, you want to make sure it's within, like I always say, like 48 to 72 hours, right? So you're just trying to get as many emails as you can at that point. You know what I mean? So if somebody books within 24 hours, obviously you're not going to send them 8 emails in one day.
Yeah.
You're just going to send it 2 and just let them go from there. Anything else on that? No? Okay. SMS. So again, I see a lot of people just send automations when someone books a call, whatever that looks like. And what we do is something very, very different, right? All we are trying to do is get a super high response rate on the first message, and thereafter just keep communication with the closer and the prospect themselves, right? So some sort of easy question like this, quick question: what's the main thing you're looking to fix right now? What's the main thing you're looking to get out of this call? Whatever that looks like. It's super open-ended and allows them to basically just give you a good response. Certain softwares that we see do very well for this. I'm not sure if you guys maybe heard of it. Sendblue works very, very well. However, the automations on it are very, very tricky, so I would only recommend sending out first message if you do so. But you can automate this on ActiveCampaign either. You can do it manually on WhatsApp, whatever is suitable to you. And again, the only key points to this is realistically you're just trying to keep communication, right? You're not trying to give them a bunch of value. What I found as well, if I send people videos in that SMS sequence before somebody books a call within that period, they actually just stop communicating whatsoever, right? So I literally am just texting them back and forth, and that's it. It's nothing complex, nothing overcomplicated. It's fairly straightforward. We keep going. Any questions on that? Okay. The booking window, this was your question itself, 2 to 3 days max. Now, a key thing about this is the largest sales teams in the world, the teams that you guys see do like 1, 2, 3 mil a month, whatever that looks like, they have an extremely short window, and their process of someone doesn't confirm the call and they swap in another one within like 12 hours is absolutely insane. You guys wouldn't believe it. What's important within this, as I said, is if you let somebody book out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, whatever that looks like, the likelihood of them firstly showing up goes down a lot, and the likelihood of them being educated, still warm, and still want to ultimately purchase your offer is super, super low. The highest intent people possible are same day bookings. I am always pushing every single one of my sales reps to same day book. Right? And even live call transfers. A setter would pick up the phone, they'd be having a conversation with someone, and would always say the question, like, are you free to jump on right now? Like, are you at your desk or at your laptop? Can you speak right now? Right? And we're always trying to get them in as soon as possible. Any other things on that? No. Triage call frame. Okay. So obviously a lot of calls get booked, and I see it for a lot of the agency guys specifically, which is the majority of my clientele, my partners that I work with, is the B2B side, right? And what these people do not do is they just book calls, and they never have a triager or setter, whatever you want to call them, call that specific lead and confirm that they're still available, right? A couple of things that you want to get that your setter, your triager wants to get on every single sales call. It doesn't matter what it is, all right? On every single set call, they do a bit of an intro, they open themselves, okay, of course. They ask and go into current situation. This is a key one I don't see people get very often, is why not do this alone? Why are you coming to us? Why not just, continue doing this yourself, watch YouTube videos, try cold email yourself, try ads yourself, try trading yourself, whatever that looks like. Why not do this yourself? It's important from a sales perspective, I say this to everybody, never true unless the prospect says it / verbalizes it. For you to sell your prospect, right, you have to get them to sell themselves on why your service / product is exactly what they need. It's never about you selling. It's about them selling themselves on what you have, right? Budget, of course, you do not want to get on a call with someone who does not have the money. Fairly straightforward. Confirming that they've watched the pre-call materials, right? As I mentioned to you guys, the confirmation page, if done correctly, is literally the most valuable asset your sales team has, right? If it has literally everything about that call coming up, which is, of course, you understand the next steps, you understand the offer, they've watched the most frequently asked questions / objections that come up, and then they see client testimonials. How warm that person is when they come onto that call is something that you guys will love. And your close rate might be a bit high if you make sure your setters watch it more often. Yeah, any questions on that? Yeah.
For the budget specifically, B2B, what is the way that you position that and present it to them?
Good question. It really depends on the type of leads that you're getting in. For example, we would simply, on my offer when I was doing the closing at the time, right, we just had the revenue question on the MT form on Calendly, and if they were making less than 50k a month, we would just remove them from the calendar. So there wasn't really too much of that going on. I would say you have an MT form on your Calendly.
When it's cold email, a lot of the time what we'll do is we get a positive reply, automation goes, finds their phone number, and we have people who call them up straight away.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of like the triage call is straight away to book them in.
Yep.
So it's good to get a budget on that, but it needs to be done on the phone.
So you can always position it. First thing the setter would say is, of course, on this call, as you would imagine, there would be an investment involved if you were to move forward. Is that something that you're open with? Firstly, always just a bit of brief in and not just going hard like, can you afford low five, mid figures, whatever your ticket price is. It's always, have you thought about the investment side of things? Are you open to investing? Whatever that looks like. More time than not, they're going to say yes. If they say no, obviously they're gone, right? And dependent on how much your service is, I would never say or drop an actual price. I would just say this is either going to be, a low to mid 4-figure investment depending on your needs. Does that sound like it would be suitable for yourself, right? Or mid to high, whatever that looks like, whatever your ticket is.
And I guess when someone inevitably does, because it happens all the time, how much does it cost? What's your triage to get around that?
Yeah. Do you have a couple of different packages for your service? You only have one?
More or less one. It's custom to the person I'm pitching, if that makes sense.
Talk to me about that. What do you mean?
So depending on honestly how much they can afford, but also what we're actually providing, what's involved in it. It's not like set in stone.
If someone says how much does it cost, I would just say it honestly depends on your specific situation and what exactly you need. We have a couple of different services depending on your specific needs. We would have to identify that on the actual call itself, but of course we'll be completely transparent. We'll let you know exactly what that looks like, and we can go from there. And then I'd ask a question. The key thing within that is if you just finish with a statement, the likelihood of them being like, "Oh, can you just tell me what it is?" Again, you need to ask a question at the end of that sentence so that they forget about that and you're on to your next point and you have frame of that conversation. You have control. Right, so some sort of question that moves the conversation forward.
Okay, an example of that?
It really depends on the conversation. This would obviously be near the end of the set call, so I would imagine they've already gone through a lot of these different things. Let's say, for example, you haven't gone through the pre-call materials yet, right? Somebody asks you that question of, just tell me how much it is, whatever that looks like, right? And your response would be, yeah, no, great question. I'm glad you asked. It really genuinely does depend on your specific situation. We have a couple of different packages, again, depending on what that looks like. We would have to actually get on that call, that Zoom call with yourself to find out exactly which one would be for you. But of course, we'll be completely transparent. We'll let you know exactly what that looks like. With that in mind, we have sent over some resources that will give you even more clarity on what we do, how we work, and how we might be able to help you. I've sent them over to your email. Did that land in your inbox? Did you get that? All good? Yeah, I did. Okay, perfect. Move the conversation forward.
And then, thank you, it's very useful. But then there are always people who do push back. And most of the time, those type of people who do push back, they're not the ones that are going to be closing anyway. But what if they do? Then you just say like a rough.
Bit of a funny one, but you guys ever heard of like the 3 no's or the 2 no's? No, I forgot all the time. But basically, when you go to a club, right, you speak to a girl, if she kind of tells you like, I'm not really too interested, you shouldn't just give up on the first go, right? You gotta keep applying some pressure. If she tells you like, no, I'm not interested, like 2-3 times, you're like, right, I'm gonna call it quits here. So same thing there, right? Don't get pushed back off the first one. Give it like 2 to 3. If they are still on you after like 3 times, firstly, like you say, probably not going to buy your shit anyway, but then you can just give them a range. I would just say, yeah, it's going to be anywhere from then, 3 to 5K US, whatever that looks like. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to give you guys a bit of an insight as to how my company works and why it is so scalable and why I've built it in the first place, right? So how this works is an agency, an info company will come to me, right? And like I mentioned to you guys, I do the ops, the copy for all the emails, I do all the sales, we do the funnels, pretty much everything correlated to what somebody would need to have a profitable acquisition system. Somebody submits an onboarding form. Off the back of that, right, it automatically pings into Notion, it automatically pings into Claude, and my copywriter, my funnel designer, and my ops person have built skills and Claude code for each and every single one of their specific things. Also me on my side as well. All of my assets that I've had, so setting scripts, closing scripts, whatever that looks like, all pings into Cloud Skills and automatically builds them custom, pretty much everything they could possibly need within 30 minutes. So it's super, super quick. And the speed to implementation, as you guys know, for your clients is like if someone receives their stuff after 24 hours that they've just paid 5K for, they're like, holy shit, like this is fire, What's important within this, right, another thing that I do, so let's say, for example, the breakout videos, right, what my team will do is we will look at the engagement rate on Wistia, right, on a weekly basis. We will optimize every single video, or if it's emails, we'll optimize every single piece of copy on a weekly basis. And how we do that is when somebody submits their information within that onboarding form, the clause skills creates 3 different subsets of pretty much everything, right? So they'll create a subset of a setting script, emails, funnels, whatever that looks like. They'll create subsets of everything and optimize it on a weekly basis. So after 30, 45 days of someone working with me, they have pretty much absolutely everything they need. Dashboard, funnels, emails, copy, sales, whatever that looks like, training, and it's actually optimized on a weekly basis, and I don't really have to touch anything, right? So very good system, in my opinion, that we've set up, but that's just a bit of insight as to what this looks like. And keep going. You guys ever heard of OKRs? No? Okay. Outcomes that matter. Everybody have heard of KPIs, I assume. Okay, so obviously KPIs is like a certain number that you want to hit for a particular metric, whatever that looks like, right? But what is the outcome that matter is a thing you also want to have within your business. For me, whatever I want to hit, a certain number, I want to get a certain revenue target for each and every single one of my clients, whatever that looks like, I have an outcome that matter and an OKR sheet for every single one. The things that really move the needle. KPIs is just one part of this. OKRs, if you implement that into your business, it will change your life. Any questions on it? I can get pretty complex on it if I wanted to.
How do you actually build them up? Like, will you sign a client, understand what they want, and then is it very much different for each and every one, or are there a few that you personally, as a business and as an agency, you set for yourself and a company?
Firstly, for a client, right? When I sign a client, right, they submit their onboarding form, I'll do a marketing/sales analysis plus like plan of action, right? Off the back of that plan of action / analysis that I do, again, I copy the transcript, I place it into the skill that we built on Claude, and it will, based on all the previous clients that I had, all of their experiences, all the things that move the needle for them, it will basically build that for them, right? So all the top things that move the needle for everybody else, based on their lowest hanging fruits, the things that they're struggling with the most, and they have their KPIs that they need to hit, but then they also have the outcomes that ultimately matter and what they're trying to get out of their business.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
And you then sort of reverse engineer the KPIs based on the OKRs. So it's like, this is the OKR, this is the end goal. But in order to achieve that outcome, you need to track the relevant KPIs. How do they link?
That's a good question. I would say, firstly, they don't always have to directly link it, right? Because then you're just going to put yourself in a bit of a bucket, right? Because, of course, you have your main KPIs, but the OKRs a lot of the time are a little bit different, right? So don't directly link them, but if you're reverse engineering them, just look at your certain KPIs that you have, ask yourself which ones really move the needle, right? So if you understand which ones really move the needle, then you're going to understand off the back of that which one you could possibly put as your OKRs. And just literally play around with Claude on this and you'll be able to figure that out, what that looks like for you and your business, Okay, the art of referrals. Oh, okay. I would say out of all the people that I've worked with in the last, 4 to 5 months, 70 to 80% of them have given me referrals, right? Which is not a small number by any means. Many of them have given me like 2 to 3, and a lot of the time I haven't even asked, right? The art of a referral is one of the main things, and it's very easy to then grow your business. Specifically when you're just starting out, you don't have a lot of whatever it is, ad budget, cold email budget, marketing budget for content, whatever that looks like. Referrals are going to be very, very key in the early stages of business, and if you're able to leverage this very well, I've seen some people who do it way better than me and who make a lot of money from referrals. But the key to this is referral isn't a lead, it's a trust transfer, right? Prospect arrives already convinced. The conversation isn't about if they'll buy, it's about how fast you can start. Every single time I've gotten a referral, that has been the case. I have not had to sell them or anything of that nature. I just had to show them the scope of work of what's involved, pretty much, and off the back of that, they send me their money. It's fairly straightforward. Predictable outcome, right? If you cannot define your result so clearly that someone else can promise it for you in one sentence, right? So again, someone comes to me because they want to 2 to 3x their revenue based on their current amount of lead flow that they're getting just by an improved acquisition system, which is something that I do every single time, right? Give introductions free, obviously that's fairly straightforward. I'm sure you guys do that. I would say the most key points to speak about referrals is, for me, because my speed of implementation is so quick, right? Obviously, as I said to you guys, people receive all their assets within like 24 hours. I ask for a referral there and then. Literally right after the sale is when you can do it as well. Literally the second somebody buys, they say, who else do you think could benefit from this specific service? And of course, at the end of your engagement, whether that be, you do a monthly retainer or you do a 3-month agreement, whatever that looks like, right at the end as well, you should be asking for referrals. And also give kickback. Do not just say, please can I have a referral? Give kickback to people if they do refer you. So I typically say like 10%, and if you do on a recurring model, you should do 10% lifetime of every single deal, whatever that looks like. That comes in. Very, very important. What I'll say to you guys is I've been in entrepreneurship for a good bit, I would say just over 2 years now.
Got a question on that.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I've really been thinking about. How do you focus on being so good at what you do and not getting excited on the steps ahead? For like yourself, for example, you started off as a closer, you're now in a position where you're an agency, your own business. How did you focus on becoming the best closer, but then learning the ops side, learning the sequences side? Like, how do you balance learning one skill so well, but then also having that urge as an entrepreneur to still learn other skills and really push on?
Yep, I got you. Okay, so every single time I would say I was a closer, I was a sales runner, and then started a business, right? When I was closing, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do after. I did not care what I did after either. I did not care whatsoever. I was so focused on becoming the best closer ever. Those like thoughts that creep into your mind, in my opinion, should not creep into your mind, because I love being so focused on what I was currently doing. What I always said to myself was, whenever my mind hits the state where I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm actually really good at this specific thing, that's when I move on to the next, right? So I was only closing for, what, like 7-ish months, and I was able to look at myself in the mirror and say, I am phenomenal at this, right? I gotta keep going, right? Or else I'm just,
And only reason I asked this because a few boys this is relevant to in the room. At that 7-month mark, when you got to your highest level of closing, your peak state of closing, how did you then transition into management? Was it through becoming the best closer on your offer? Was it your brand, your network? Just talk us through that.
That's a good question. So everybody has a specific pocket that they need to tap into. For me, because I was doing B2B sales, right, there wasn't a lot of, you guys see it all the time, all these people that run like the lead agencies, whatever that looks like, and they never had anybody to go to specifically for B2B sales, because all they see online is like B2C, 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 B2C. So all the people that were in my current network, they just started coming to me. The main thing I honestly did was I just put myself out there in the sense of I'd go to events. I went to a lot of events when I was starting out specifically as a closer, and just joining different communities, whatever that looks like, speaking to different people, and the thought process of when you're in that state as well where it's time to move on, do not then sit in your house and take 10 calls a day and work 12 hours a day. Like, you got to get out there and you got to speak to people. So that's very, very key.
Okay.
Just on that, following on from that question, when do you know is the best time?
I'm a big believer in your intuition. There's a book, it's called The Art of Becoming Supernatural, right? That book teaches you specifically about your intuition. And of course, as you're aware, as a salesperson, your intuition is one of the most key things, right? So if you are able to train your intuition in a mannerly way, you will get rich, you know, it's straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, man, that's a tough question. It's you.
Well, it's because I'll ask me personally, I'm at a bit of crossroads right now. I have an option to work with somebody else for closing, or so I've been doing it for a while, but I feel like maybe am I not as enjoying it as much as I was before? Or am I
Also, quickly to jump in, Senan, for context, use of his closing on probably one of the largest B2B offers. So it's like we were speaking last night, how does he go from either do I stay on this offer for 3 or 4 more months and develop a skill, or do I transition and look elsewhere, because the offer's been having consistently
it's
quite
not been
poor.
great. Johnny Mow's the sales manager for the offer.
Okay.
And that is taking a bit of a dip. Am I maybe thinking about the next thing, because obviously a bit of a dip? I know how much is on the table, is how much is about 10 closers on the team. I see how much the top 2 or 3 are making.
Yeah, that's what I'll say is like, what I did originally was I didn't just like fully stop closing and just like quit that and then go into management. I actually started doing both of them at the same time, right? So I was closing for 6 or 7 hours of the day, and the first actual management offer that I got, it wasn't actually a full management offer. I had to take closing calls on it as well, right? I was only doing 30k a month. I came in, I didn't really ask for like a big upfront, didn't ask for anything because I had no experience. I was just like, just give me a 1k base, I'll manage the setters, I'll take some sales calls.
And how did you get into that?
Specifically, that guy reached out to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
How a personal brand?
Yeah.
Got me there.
But you gotta affirm that shit. Like in every single morning, right? Unless you're around, I'll listen to affirmations in the morning, right? And within those affirmations, it's me telling myself that I get referrals, people come to me, people want to work with me, people pay me. That's my belief system, and that happens. That's how it works. But what I would say to you is, from a management perspective, because you don't have extensive experience right now, anything over, I would say 500k a month, if you do not get either trained on it or you haven't done it before, you might get caught out because it's not as easy as
That's
people
the thing. When
think.
it's going to be too quick to make the jump. Do I double down on closing for a couple more months? Do I try to learn a bit of management on the side while closing at the same time? A lot of questions. a lot going on, man. A lot going on.
It's still fun. I'll chat a bit more after you, bro, because it's a big play. Okay, like I said to you guys, 2 years in business, my thought process is always just a very simple fact. How can I build my name, my brand, and how can I get better at what I'm doing? That's it. As long as you can do that, then you're going to make some money. So if there's anything to take away, focus on your brand, actually getting referrals, and controlling the entire outcome of the people that come to you, what they're trying to get, control the entire thing. That's good.
That was really good.